Hey guys, welcome to Frame Chasers. I'm gonna do a quick one today because I got to get this done for a customer build. Um, I got a Corsair H100. I think it's an older one. I got it off the Facebook Marketplace for 60 bucks. And I mean, should you even buy used AIOs? I think you can, depending on the age. They do wear out though over time. I don't know like the science behind it, but like the water does evaporate inside of these things over time, and the more the water evaporates, the more that the propeller in there is going to start wearing out the bearing because it's not actually pushing water, it's pushing air bubbles, right? So the longer that goes, the worse it is for the AIO. You can maintain them. You can pretty much make them go forever. Two things you can do. You can flush it or you can just top it off and try and get the air bubbles out. That will depend on when you take the cold plate off. Look in there, and if there's scum and grease and bacteria growth on the fins, do a full flush. If it's within the year, maybe two, and you don't see anything in there, you can just top it off with distilled water, run the pump, and get the air bubbles out, and you'll be totally fine. Seal it back up, and it'll run for another 2 years, right? The first telltale sign you want to look for when you're buying a used AIO, tip it up and down by, listen to it. See if you can hear if there's air, like if you can hear water sloshing around in there, then you know there's an air gap in there and it's worth taking apart and filling it. That air gap, even if you turn it on and the air bubbles go away, it just means the air bubbles went to the top of the rad and they're just sitting there. They're not gonna. It's just gonna get worse over time. So this one, I can't hear it on the microphone, but
A few moments later.
before I do anything, I'm gonna go outside and just blow all the dust off this thing because I don't know, man. There's just something about used hardware and people just not taking care of their stuff. This is disgusting. I'll be right back. There we go. All clean now. At least I'm not going to be breathing skin particles while I'm taking this thing apart. First thing we got to do is take this cold plate off and see what we're working with. I'm going to try and show you guys as best as I can what's going on in here. Give me a sec. I'm going to swap cameras. Alright, here we go. Let's take this off quickly and see what's going on underneath. These little Allen screws are incredibly fragile. The last thing you want to do when you're putting this back together is over tightening it. If you do that and you strip one, I mean, it might still seal, but man, if it doesn't and it starts leaking on you, you're screwed. You might as well toss it in the garbage after that. You're not going to be able to source these specific screws anywhere else. Even just extracting the strip one is going to be, I mean, for 50, 60 bucks for a used one, it's whatever, you know what I mean? Just hand tight when it gets snug. Like, it doesn't take very much pressure to seal a water cooling system at all. And if you notice, I'm still taking them apart in a crisscross pattern. I wonder what we're gonna see under here. I'm kind of curious to see how old this thing is. It's an H100 non-I model, so I mean, right away it's been a while on this thing's legs. Alright, here we go. Pop this off. Hey, look at that. Not bad at all. The fluid is green. I'm not sure if you can actually see that. And I'm not sure if the fluid is supposed to be green or if it's mold or algae or something. It smells fine. It smells like disinfectant. Yeah. I think we're okay here. Alright, yeah, so for this one, I'm just gonna end up topping it off and filling it. It looks good. There's no bacteria anywhere. There's no reason for me to flush this whole thing out and waste money on, anti-growth microbial coolant and all that jazz, right? They use the best stuff for their coolers because the rad is always going to be aluminum, and the cold plate is always going to be copper. So you have to use a coolant that won't, corrode the metals together, whatever the hell they call it, galvanic corrosion garbage. You don't really have to worry about that. So if you just add distilled water, then you're going to be fine. So what you want to do is you can use a power supply. I have this little gizmo here that plugs into the wall, but you take whatever connector you need to turn the pump on. So this one's just a regular Molex. And you want to run it a little bit at a time. And you're going to start seeing air bubbles come to the surface. The air bubbles are always going to go to the highest point of the system. So you want to keep the rad on your lap, and you want to keep the pump as high as possible so the air bubbles go to the top and get out, right? Here, let's see what happens if I... It's kind of hard to do this with two hands, to be honest, and have it on the camera on it. Let me see if I can point these sideways. Oh, that's better. Nice. All right, let's try this. If you can see that. Yeah, all right. Now let's see what happens if I plug it in quickly. Oh. You don't want to just leave it on or else it might even spill over. You see how many air bubbles are coming out of there? Although I'm not sure if it's actually draining back in there. Oh, yeah, it is. Oh, I see. Okay. So... Oh, that's interesting. The drain back port is actually down here. And even air bubbles are coming out even if it's just sitting here. So the intake is over here, and then the drain back is over here. All right, let me try and slosh this around a little bit. Even just moving the rad around a little bit, you'll even get some air bubbles coming out of there. Look at that. Just jiggle the rad around a bit. Look at that. Look at all those bubbles coming out. It's insanity. You pretty much have to keep doing this until the bubbles stop. Once the bubbles stop, you can actually top it off and then seal it back up, and then you're fine. This one's kind of nice. You don't even have to use the pump at all. There we go. You see how the fluid is draining back in now that the air bubbles aren't blocking the fluid down? That's crazy. That's how many air bubbles are in there. Alright, I'm going to do this for the next 30 minutes or so, and then I'll get back to you.
One eternity later.
Alright, it's been about 10 minutes of me just shaking the radiator and running the pump over and over. And now you're starting to see, as the air bubbles are coming out more and more and more, the water level is starting to go down. And it's going down to the point where the water isn't covering the tube ports. So as you're going, don't run the pump how do I explain this? Don't turn the pump on if fluid isn't covering the whole thing, because you don't want to suck air bubbles back into the system, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fill it to the top with distilled water, and then we're going to repeat the process over and over and over and over, pretty much. It doesn't need much, just a couple of drops even. Good enough. Even if you overflow, it doesn't matter. And then now that it's full, just start shaking her up again. Get those air bubbles out. We're almost done here. Maybe another 10 minutes of this, and we're going to be good to go. All right, we're finished here. How you can tell we're done is when you run the pump or shake the radiator, the water doesn't even, like, it doesn't even move. It's completely full. There's no more pressure in the system to move the water anymore, right? So this is me shaking the radiator. Let's turn the pump back on. Look at that. There are no more air bubbles coming out whatsoever. So that way you know it is completely full, all the air bubbles are out, and it's going to last you a really long time. Now, when you're putting the cold plate back on, it's not like you have a vacuum sealer or anything. So the only way to make sure that there's no air in there whatsoever is to actually overfill it just a bit into the point where the water is spilling over into where the little, this black gasket is supposed to go in this groove here. So if there's water spilling over into this area and you close it, then that way no air can get pushed back down into it. All right, I put the gasket back into its groove and there's a little bit of water spilling over the edge. That's totally fine. That's exactly what you want. I'm going to put the cold plate back on, and they actually did a good job with this one where if you see there's a groove here on the corner, there's a groove here on the actual housing. So you know exactly which direction it's supposed to go. You can't mess it up. I didn't even realize that until just now, a second ago. So when you put this back on, a little bit of water might actually spill out, and that's fine. Don't worry about it. That's how you know you did it right. When the water spills out, don't take the cold plate back off again or else the water will get inside. Literally just close it, hold it shut. There it is. You see how water came out there? Hold it shut with your finger, screw it back in. Don't lift off your finger until all of them are in. It might suck, but trust me, you don't want to let go and let an air bubble back in. That would defeat the purpose of doing this entire damn thing. We want this to last forever. Oh my god, my fingers. You'll notice I'm tightening it in a crisscross pattern. Obviously, you tighten everything with a crisscross pattern. That way it applies even pressure, blah, blah, blah. Nothing comes out after. And make sure you wash your hands after. You have no idea what kind of chemicals they're using for this fluid. Probably kill you for all we know. Actually, you know what? I probably wouldn't. They probably have a lawsuit on their hands because some idiot like me would take it off and then drink it or something. It looks like Kool-Aid. Who knows? All right, last one. All right, I think we're done. And one final time, just go through them all. Make sure they're nice and snug. Snug. Nice. All right, we're done here. Now we go for the listen test. All right, next thing we want to do, we're going back to the slosh test. Pure silence. That's exactly what you want to have. If you keep hearing sloshing afterwards, you didn't get all the air bubbles out. If you hear nothing, then you know it's 100% full, which is what you want. They tell you, the manufacturers tell you these things aren't serviceable. They want you to buy a new one every couple of years. Consumerism, right? But I mean, these things totally are. why would you throw away a perfectly good thing every couple of years just for the sake of, buying a new one, right? Another way you can tell if there's actually air bubbles inside of it, when you first turn the pump on, if there's air bubbles, it will kind of sound differently for the first couple of seconds until it catches some water, and then it'll sound normally. If it's totally full, it will sound normal from beginning to finish, right? There you go. The pitch of the pitch of the propeller didn't change from 1 second to the other. So that's how you know you're good. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Thanks for joining me. Time to go throw this into a build. You're not gonna see a temperature difference at all. Maybe if the air pocket was gigantic to the point where a portion of the radiator wasn't getting cooled, but I mean, then you got bigger problems than that. But yeah, you're not going to see a actual performance difference, so I'm not going to benchmark it. This was really just to show you how to save a few dollars buying a used AIO. Yeah, if you like the video, like, share, subscribe. Hit me up on Twitch Tuesdays and Saturdays if you want a game. And if you got any questions on how to get more frames out of your hardware, put it in the comments down below and I'll try and get to it. And I'll see you guys later.